Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast, and I am the Village Idiot here, Daryl, and I am flying solo tonight. We were trying to work it out for all of us to be on. My brother got called into work, so he was out. Then Troy had family things come up and had to take care of those obligations at the last second. So just decided that the show must go on and cannot end here. So we're going to do this thing anyway. And so if this is your first time here, man, thanks for coming along for the ride. Again, none of us are journalists. We're not journalist students, journalism students. That's what that should say. Anything like that. We are just guys that like to talk sports and obviously specifically Oklahoma sports, anything Sooners, anything Thunder. We want to get into, as well as OK Preps as that kind of season comes around as well. So if you do end up liking it and enjoying the time, like, subscribe, do all the fun things, leave us a review. Helps us out a lot, and we'd be greatly appreciative of all of it. So let's dive right in, because it has been a busy weekend, to say the least, and the Sooners of softball are at it. So that's where we will start at, with a thrilling regional and super regional for them to make their way back to the championship series. Man, just what a run this team is on. And by the way, 51 straight wins now, which is just, it's crazy. And as being not nearly on that stage, but in high school, to have gone through, 43 straight wins at one point over the course of several seasons in football. Man, the reality of just what it would be like to do it for 50 games and to play as often as they do in softball, right? As well, in football, you get your week to kind of recover. You get your week to reset, refocus, rethink, reapply yourself to the next opponent. And often in softball, you play Monday, you play Tuesday, maybe take a break, then come back and play the next weekend or whatever it is. And then especially in the regionals and super regionals, it's literally playing every other day. And now you're playing the best of the best. And just, so not only to get through it, they should have done that, but to do it undefeated. Very impressive against some very good teams. Clemson was a great team. Stanford was legit, especially in the circle. They have got some unbelievable talent there. And so, you have the comeback against Clemson, and if you didn't really follow it, it's the final inning, 7th inning, 2 outs, 2 strikes on the hitter, and what happens? A 3-run bomb does, to get it to extras and give them a chance to go win that game. Just an incredible thing to be down against Stanford with the great pitching they had, and to come back. And I would say what we've learned in this regional and super regional is not just that this team's good. We've known that. We knew coming into the year that this was a team that could contend for a national championship. Let's also be honest, though, and say none of us, no experts, no media people, expected this team to go 51 straight. That just doesn't happen. That's why it's a historic run. And nobody thought this team was a historic team. I think we all, again, expected them to be right there in the running. And I think most Sooner fans were at a place of saying that this team probably should win another championship. But there were those out there, the experts of the field, saying that this team was going to take a step back, that they were contenders. They were going to take a step back, and instead they've exceeded what this team did last year. And let's be honest, softball's at a great place. Again, Clemson, incredible. Stanford, incredible. The Florida State team they're about to play in the finals is incredible. There is a lot of good softball being played around the country. And so for them to go 51-0 since that loss early in the season is just incredible. And again, just the thing that I think, again, trying to get back to the point of what I think we've learned about this team is, man, just their belief and their grit. The pitchers genuinely believe their defense is going to make every play. The defense genuinely believes that the pitcher is going to make every single pitch. And then when they are in the dugout and there's a player at the plate, they genuinely believe that that person will get on base by whatever means necessary. And that's what's allowed them to get through the grind that they've been. It's what allowed them to come back from being down 3 runs in the 7th. I mean, let's just be real about it. I mean, most Sooner fans, while still having hope, were like, the reality is we're probably going to go have to play them again, see what happens in game 3, and we'll go from there. And instead, this team just continues to believe and works their way back. Tiare Jennings against Stanford, done nothing but basically strike out against Najiri Kennedy. And what does she do? A double that's just a laser to the right field gap, right center gap, I should say, and scores 2. And there we are. They're just never, ever out of it. Nicole May starts out against Stanford and a little shaky, 3 hits, 2 runs. I mean, you're kind of going, oh, and then what'd she do? 13 straight batters. 13 straight batters she sat down after that. I mean, like, they just believe that they're going to find their way. They believe, and Tiare Jennings especially talked about this in the post game. We just believe in the process, and they don't focus on the instant result. Every moment is a moment, and then the next moment is a moment to continue the process. And you see that with this team. They genuinely have a championship mindset. Now, is that me saying it's a guarantee they're going to win this? No, because FSU is very, very, very good. They have great pitching, and that's the equalizer of softball or baseball. If you have got ace pitchers, that always is going to keep you in the fight. It always, always will. And Florida State has that. So just crazy to watch and to see. If you have not been watching, you need to set your DVR, folks. I'm just telling you right now, turn the DVR on, set it, stay up late, watch these games. It's going to be incredible. My son and wife were at the game against Stanford, the clinching game against them, and just a war. And even my son was just going nuts about what an incredible game it was, how fun it was to watch, the intensity, the energy. It was super, super cool. And the last I looked, by the way, tickets are going in the $30 range to watch a team continue to chase history in a championship in game 1 tomorrow night. So, man, you got nothing going on and you live in Oklahoma City, spend $30 and go watch some championship softball. Like, you need to go do that and see this team in person. Be well worth it. Now, the other hot topic with softball, of course, has been mainly the Twitter universe, right? Just losing its mind over the energy, passion, celebration, whatever you want to call it, of the Sooners. And look, man, I'm over it. Now, let's just be clear. There are some of you listening to this, watching this right now, that you just don't like celebrations. And that's fine. Like, I'm not mad at the person. There are some of you that believe that the Barry Sanders method of no matter what happens and no matter how incredible of a run or play or hit or whatever it is, you just turn around, you hand the ball to the referee, and you go to the sideline, right? There are those of you that believe that the greatest thing that's ever happened to sports are for people to play like a Baker Mayfield, who runs the length of the field, waving his arms all crazy and going nuts and celebrating with his teammates and all the different things. So, okay, that's just opinion, okay? That is all opinion. Now, what I get frustrated at is I probably lean a little bit more to less celebration than more personally. And again, that's just the personal preference that I have, but I don't care. Now, when it becomes an attacking nature, right? Like, for instance, I don't care at all that a guy makes a huge dunk in the NBA game and screams at the camera, flexes, whatever. Now, standing over the top of another player, where it begins to cross a line for me, right? Like, I don't like those kinds of things. I don't like the going at a player per se. Now, again, there's always context around that, right? So, as a guy who grew up on baseball with a dad, if a guy gets plunked by a pitcher, right, and then the next at bat comes up and scorches a home run out into left field, I think giving that pitcher a little bit of the stink eye is allowed at that point, right? Because there's context around that. So, Obviously, Danny Cannell from a few years ago, whatever. But what has made me mad is the terms of classless, the terms of unsportsmanlike. Give me a break, man. You're facing the best pitchers in the game. You're facing the best hitters in the game. And I don't care if it's a walk. I don't care if it's getting hit by pitch. I don't care what it is. To celebrate the reality that you got on base, made a catch, made a throw, made a play is allowed. Now, look, everybody that is in our little Discord group that is listening to this is going to come after me because I even said the one that really got people all riled up was Miss Brito throwing her bat down as she earned a walk. Now, I didn't love it. I don't care. The reason I didn't love it, though, is the context, because the pitch right before that was a 2-strike pitch that she watched go by, and it literally went down the dead center of the plate. How in the world the umpire called it a ball, I have no idea. No idea. And if you put a truth serum in Alyssa Brito, she doesn't know either. She thought she was rung up. Now, she stood in there and she played it off, but she knew she was rung up when she let that pitch go by. And instead it was a ball. Then the next pitch was a legitimate ball, and she got her walk. I don't think you get to throw the bat down as though you've accomplished something when there's a clear strike. Now, you can still turn to the dugout, clap your hands, get nuts, But again, that's my personal. But is that classless? No. Like, what? We love to, on the Twitter world, use these abrasive words because we think it adds to our argument. You can say it's too much. You can say you don't like it. You can say that I wish they wouldn't. The classless and unsportsmanlike is a joke. There is nothing this team has done that has been classless. There is nothing that this team has done that has been unsportsmanlike. They play with great intensity, passion, fun, and enjoyment, and they celebrate it. Get over it. Move on. Danny Cannell and everybody else out there, get over it. This team's going to continue to play that way. And even, I believe it was today, Patty Gasso and her team doing kind of the pregame media scrum stuff said, we're not going to apologize for that. We are not going to apologize for celebrating winning. We're not going to apologize celebrating for successes, because success is hard. And therefore, we're going to play with great passion and celebrate it. And I think that that's fair. And I think that's right. And they should be able to do that. I cannot like it. I can wish that it was all more Barry Sanders like. You can wish that. It's not classless just because you don't like it. It's not unsportsmanlike just because you don't like it, right? Those things are not true. The video, the closest thing to classless or unsportsmanlike was the center fielder from Stanford waving bye-bye to one of our batters that strikes out. That's closer to classless or unsportsmanlike. I still don't even think it's that. I think it's getting riled up and excited or whatever. But again, I don't like celebrations that are directed at players, right? I like celebrations that are about the game and about everything else. Again, that doesn't make what our girls are doing classless, and it doesn't make it unsportsmanlike. Get over it, Twitter world. Get over it, everybody that's getting beat by Oklahoma. And that's the other side of this, right? Is we all hate Alabama. We all hate Georgia. And there's a reason. They're really good. All of us hated Dabo Sweeney's little cheesy speeches he always gave and all that stuff. When they started winning national championships, when they were the little underdog team out there, in Carolina doing their thing, nobody cared. It was just like, dude, that guy's just so cheesy. Once they started winning nationally, I can't stand that guy. He's all about himself. This is what comes with winning 51 straight games. That's the other thing, Sooner Nation. Take a deep breath. This is what comes with winning on this level. We just haven't been there like this in such a long time. I think we have forgotten that's when you're hated the most. That's when you're scrutinized the most, and that's the reality. So now, as far as the championship series goes, I believe this will be a 3-game series. I do. I do think the Sooners will take game 1. I think that they could lose game 2, and then it'll go to a game 3. I think Florida State is very, very, very good. Now, Oklahoma is capable with their pitching, with their fielding, with their hitting. to end this thing in 2 nights and run rule fashion. But I believe that this Florida State team is very good. They are very well coached, and they are very, very, very talented. I do think this is going to be a war, but I do pick OU in 3 to get the three-peat, win it all. I hope they win all 3. All two games that they need in a row to continue the streak on into next year. I'd love to see how far they could run that streak up. Would be incredible. So that's our softball talk for this podcast. I hope, again, DVR, watch, run the ratings up. You're going to enjoy it. So let's talk some Sooners football. Even though it's really the off season, it's camp season, there's offers going out to 2026 and 2025 people and even beyond. But there was some good news in the week as well. We did get a pair of transfer portal additions for OU. The first was Philip Paya, a 6'4", 300-pound defensive tackle from Utah State. He was at one time at Michigan. Okay, so now, is this a guy that's going to come in and just change the defensive line? I would say probably not. I have not done a ton of film study. I have not done a ton of just deep dive on who this guy is and what's going on there and all those things. But look, any guy good enough to go to Michigan and that's over 300 pounds and has played some D tackle and had some, progress is not the word. Production's the word I'm looking for. They've had production. That's a guy you want in this room based on what we saw last year and what we lost. And so that's a win. Then they turned right around and got Dejon Terry, who is a defensive tackle transfer from Tennessee. Now, the first thing we're all going to think is ooh, SEC defensive lineman, right? And that's all well and good. He did not have massive production while he was at Tennessee. Okay. Now, the other thing I did not realize is that Dejon Terry actually started at Kansas. I want to come back to that in a minute. He started his career at Kansas. He transferred to Tennessee. So Tennessee actively went after this guy from Kansas to get him to Tennessee. And now he has entered the portal, and OU has actively gone after to get him to come to OU. And it apparently was a very fast transition. Now, let me give you some stats on Terry. Okay. In 13 games last season, right? 7 solo tackles, 9 assists for 16 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss with 2 sacks. Okay. There's nothing about that stat line that just screams, oh my gosh, this guy's an animal, right? But it is production, and it is production in the SEC. So you do have to believe with the changing of the Big 12 to what it is and the schedule that OU has this coming season, that production should take a uptick because he is not going to face the level of competition that he did in the SEC. That's just fact, and that's just true, right? But I would also say this, and I started kind of digging through some other defensive linemen. So, like for instance, Brian Bresee, a Clemson defensive tackle that was kind of an all-world out of high school guy, had a great freshman season. Last season, Mr. Bresee played in 10 games. So 3 games less. He only had 9 solo tackles and 6 assists. So that's 15 total. Okay, granted, less games, but less. 5.5 tackles for loss and 3.5 sacks. So, I mean, if you put that stat line up through 13 games, maybe 2 or 3 more sacks, maybe 2 to 3 more tackles for loss, probably about 5 to 6 more tackles, but the numbers are comparable. Okay, the numbers are comparable. They're in the same wheelhouse. It's not like Brian Bresee just blew it out of the water and just left him behind. Now, here's the other thing. If you looked at the little cover photo for our podcast, or if you're looking at the cover photo for the YouTube video, either way, you saw a photo of who is Dejon Terry. I would challenge you to go back and look at the pictures of him when he was at Kansas. And I would just say this. It is very clear that from the start of his college career to right now, he has gone through a complete body transformation. Okay? Which shows in the lack of production in the early years, and the production has increased with every year. And look, in no way, shape, or form is Dejon Terry this guy. But from a build standpoint, you are seeing a Perion Winfrey build. And honestly, the way his shoulders are built, it gives you JJ Watt vibes. Like they are that kind of thick, broad, wide shoulder. I mean, it's just unreal. Flat bellied guy. And so I would say this. I do not believe that Dejon Terry has hit his ceiling. Because of the way his body has changed, you have to believe that his twitchiness has changed in his slimming down and becoming more athletic. You have to believe his strength is higher. Whereas in his early days, he looks very much more like just a very oversized guy that just is allowing his weight to anchor him in the middle. He is now at the same weight or heavier, looking much, much, much slimmer. That bodes well. That bodes well. So again, am I saying that this guy is going to end up on some kind of All-American list? No, but he is going to be a guy that I believe helps. And if he really takes to Todd Bates's coaching and he really takes to the defensive system, I do believe this is a guy that could help in a big way and could hopefully be a guy that helps really push the middle back for this line. I feel very good about Dejon Terry. I think that this is a guy that really could help this team. Philip Paia, we will see. I think there's potential there, but it feels a little bit more like a depth play with Philip Paia, more of a character guy that maybe they knew somehow from the recruiting process back before. I felt like this guy would really bring something to the locker room kind of guy. So I'm not looking for that part out of either. I'm not looking for an All-American out of either of these guys. But I'm really not even looking for massive rotation minutes right now for Philip Paia either. But I am looking for a guy that, when needed, can play, can fill it, can get in there and give you some depth when needed on maybe some of these early, really hot games or games that are just very intense and are going long and the snap count's getting up there. I think this is a guy that could really help you. And let's not forget that a guy like Philip Paia could really help this offensive line, because he's a guy that you could put in some kind of scout team role or when you're going good on good type stuff to really give good reps to that offensive line as they're trying to do some things. So, and then not only that, with these additions, it was interesting to see Grayson Halton tweet right as all this was kind of coming out that it was going to happen. He just said this simple tweet, one word: motivation. That's a good thing. One of the things we have talked over and over again is, especially on the defensive side of the ball for OU the last several years, without a doubt, throughout Riley's tenure, there was not enough depth on the defensive side of ball to create competition. And when there is no competition, it is easy to get into a mode of no motivation. You know you've got your spot. You know you're going to be a starter. And just based off that, you know you're going to get production, right? Now there's so many bodies in that room and that interior, with Joseph Lalulu moving inside, Isaiah Coe returning, now Paia, now Dejon Terry, Grayson Halton, Kellen Gilby. I mean, there are so many bodies squeezed into that defensive tackle room. You better be motivated and you better come to work every single day, because that position is up for grabs and somebody got to run with it. And somebody's going to have to earn it, and somebody's going to have to win it. We'll see what happens. And so I felt like that was very interesting tweet that he put out there. The other thing that I have found interesting kind of in the off-season scuttle a little bit was, I believe it was Ethan Downs on Red Dirt Ramblings podcast that said that they are now ending every practice with 49 medicine balls to remind them of the 49-0 beatdown they took from Texas. Motivation. Jerry Schmidt knows how to motivate. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to that podcast, I would really encourage you to do it, because it was kind of cool to hear him, Tyler Guyton, and even Rame was on the podcast, just talking through the things they went through last year, the training they went through, the things they did that they felt like made them better leaders, a better team, more tight knit, their understanding of the game, etc. And yet In Ethan Downs' words, it never translated to the field, and it was so confusing because we know we're better and stronger and more together than we've ever been, and it just didn't translate. And so we will see. This is a money year for Brent Venables. I think he's still going to recruit really well in this class. I think he's still going to be able to convince people to give him a chance, to give the staff a chance. But they got to win games this year. And if they don't make a significant increase this year in where they need to go on the win side and really put themselves in contention for this conference, then I do think that you're going to really see the leash become short for him in a big way. Now, speaking of short leashes, that all is also going to depend on recruiting. I think one of the reasons that a lot of people have been willing to say, okay, Brent had a rough first year, but we still think that this could go somewhere. We still think Brent's the right guy for the job is because of the recruiting class he put together last year. 5-star into quarterback, 5-star defensive end, 5-star safety. I mean, you brought in some dudes, Caden Green, a guy that was a very high 4-star that everybody wanted. Everybody wanted Jaquez Petaway, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you brought in some dudes. And by the way, even Dylan Smothers and Caleb Hicks, I think, are two very underrated running backs from last year's class that you bring in, right? And so you bring all that talent in. Lewis Carter, I'm in love with. I just think is going to be an incredible player for this team, so forth, so on. That buys you time, okay? But you got to keep that. They've done it for a season. He has to turn around and do it again. And unfortunately, this week has Sooner fans losing their minds and being children and not being adults because a lot of bad news came down today and over the week, right? So I believe it was last week or the week before last, Sammy Brown, 5-star, number 1 rated linebacker in the country, announced his official visits. He had Clemson on there. He had Georgia on there. I believe Ohio State was on there. You had OU on there. And so he announced he's going to go visit all these places. He visits Clemson, and it's a done deal. He is committed to Clemson. Interesting. Brian Wesco, about a month ago, there was a lot of rumors going around that one was starting to slip, that we were starting to lose out on Brian Wesco. Then you started to hear that things had been patched up, that things were better, it was growing together, that they had really kind of mended the fence. He goes on a visit to Clemson and commits. So you lose 2 5-star targets in a matter of about 48 hours, right? Not great, okay? Now, what I find very interesting about all this is this. Brent Venables comes from the Dabo Swinney tree, and a lot of the things that Brent has been criticized for, the no visit policy, the slow rolling commits. In other words, when I say slow rolling, meaning, we have heard commits say, I was ready to commit here, and Brent Venables said no. You need to go take your visits. You need to go see what's out there and know that OU is the place for you before you commit, right? So that's what I mean by slow rolling. There have been multiple commits that said, I was ready to pull the trigger after my visit. And Brent said, look, you need to go take your other visits. You need to go look around because once you're committed, there are no more visits. There is no more shopping. So you need to know that you know that you know that this is the place that you belong. This is the place that you want to be and nowhere else. And he learned that from Dabo Swinney. That's why I find this interesting because Wesco had also announced his official visits. He goes to Clemson and visits, and they're coming out committing left and right. Has something changed at Clemson? That's my question, right? Look, it's a great program, great coach. They've got a good QB next year, it seems like, right? But it feels like Clemson's approach to recruiting may be shifting, right, from the slow roll to the hard sell. And so what will be interesting is Dabo going to hold to his policy of no more visits? Now, I haven't read every single tweet of Sammy Brown or Brian Wesco since they've announced. but I did see the initial ones. And while I saw committed, I'm all about this place, those kinds of things, I did not see I will not be taking visits. And that's the thing, right? This is why I hate crystal balls and I hate future casts and all the different things. When you talk to a kid 9 times out of 10 after their official visit, you're going to probably come away going, I think this kid's going to go to this school. Not always, but very consistently, that's the truth, right? Official visits, that's what it's all about. Putting our best foot forward. We're going to show you all the shiny things about our program, right? We're going to show you our fancy new facility. We're going to show you our great history. We're going to show you the accolades of our staff. We're going to show you that our players and our coaches love each other and we're a family and da 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 da, right? We're going to show you that we got cute girls on campus, whatever it is. Like, that's all coming on the official visit. So of course you're going to walk away from the official visit going, yeah, man, this place was hopping, right? This was fire. It's when they go through all the visits and they get done with all those visits and then they've had some time to kind of marinate on all of it. Which ones stick, right? That's when you begin to figure it out. So look, I have been saying for a long time, I thought Sammy Brown would commit to Clemson. I thought that's where he was headed all along. Even when everybody kept saying Georgia, 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 that family's not a Georgia family. Like, I just don't know how to say that. That culture is just not them. The Clemson culture is them. Now, if he still is willing to take a visit and he continues to come and he comes and visits with Brent Venables, he is going to see a similar culture to Clemson. And he's also going to see a much longer history of winning. He's going to see a deeper history of putting guys in the NFL. He's probably going to get to meet with some All-American linebackers such as Curtis Lofton, Teddy Lehman, and others, Butkus Award winners, right? He's also going to meet with the coach that helped set that culture at Clemson and who is very good in the room. Do I think he decommits? Probably not. But you better believe that if he does do the visit, and if these guys that follow recruiting and get to talk to these kids every 5 minutes, talks to him after that visit, they are going to say, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Oklahoma here, right? You see what I'm saying? So don't close the door yet until they say they're not busy. And Brian Wesco, the same. OU has a great history, right? Has a much better recent history with receivers in the NFL than Clemson does. Clemson's got some good ones in the NFL, but recently, not so much. OU has a long track record. Mark Clayton, Sterling Shepard, CeeDee Lamb, Hollywood Brown, Ryan Broyles, though he got injuries in the NFL, still a high-round draft pick, has records, right? Records on records on records in the NCAA. You do have D.D. Westbrook. You do have I think I already said CeeDee Lamb, right? Like, you've got this history right now. Marvin Mims going where he went, the numbers he put up. You got a history. And if Brian Wesco takes a trip to OU and he gets to meet with Jackson Arnold and he gets to meet with Michael Hawkins and he gets to do all those things, the door could be open. So, folks, remember, a verbal commitment is not a signing. It's just not. And especially it's not a signing if these guys are willing to come and take their visits at OU. So let's see what happens with the visits and go from there. If I come on next week and say, hey, they've all canceled their visits, they'll never come to camp, okay, we'll see what happens. And it seems like a hit for Brent Venables and his tenure at OU. The other bad news that came out that everyone's losing their mind over is, yet again, a crystal ball or future cast or whatever it is, right, by Steve Wilfong, saying that Joseph Jonah Ajonye, he has crystal ball to Georgia. Okay, fine. If he comes and visits to OU, let's see where it's at after the visit. Again, official visit season is happening. And when you go on official visits, every school is going to put every best foot, best sales pitch, best whatever forward to get you to their place. So until it's a done deal, it is not a done deal. So calm down. Take a deep breath. Let's see what happens. All right. Let's see what happens. Now, the bright side out of all of this, because I know that all of you that listen to this podcast like to call me the dark demon, whatever. I'm sorry. I only go dark when there's actual results to look at and say there's dark, like our offensive line playing like trash. I'm going to say it's playing like trash. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to look for rainbows in the sky when their production is awful. Okay. So looking at production, everybody's losing their minds because obviously the Sooners lost out on Za'Darian Sims. That's a hit, right? You've now lost out on Brian Wesco. That's a hit. You've lost out on Sammy Brown. That's a hit. You now have a crystal ball of Joseph Jonah-Ajonye going to Georgia. That's a hit. There's no doubt those things are hits, but let's look at the production for a moment, right? PJ Adebawore. Wasn't he like a 3-star fringe 4-star guy when OU found him? Oh, yeah, he was. Sammy Omosigho. Wasn't he like a fringe 3-star? Matter of fact, I think he was a like 260 ranked guy who ended up like an Under Armour All-American and turning heads everywhere and jumping all the way up into the top like 120. Huh. That's interesting. And so forth. So like this staff last year showed the ability to evaluate. They can evaluate. Now, do you want Jonah-Ajonye? Yeah. You want Brown? Yeah. That's why they're recruiting them, because they've evaluated them and said that they are worth bringing into this program. But if they've evaluated a 3-star or a 4-star, that's not, the top 10 guy in the whole entire nation, it doesn't mean they can't play. As a matter of fact, the track record of this staff would say they can. How about Josiah Wagner? Right? Like who when Josiah Wagner announced that he was coming to OU was just doing flips in their living room and go, that's the guy we had to have in this class. And yet, here we are after spring ball, and of the freshman defensive backs, Josiah Wagner is the guy who is going to be on the field. So, look, I'm not happy about losing Wesco. I'm not happy about losing Sammy Brown. Those are guys I think you should have done whatever you had to do to close the deal with, right? I think you should have done whatever you could to get Za'Darian Sims. I really liked his tape and his abilities. You need to be doing whatever you can to get Joseph Jonah-Ajonye. I get all that. But if you've evaluated a kid and you really believe that they have the ability to play, and regardless of ranking, that there's somebody that's going to help you, go get them. This staff has shown that they know how to see the talent. They know how to see what fits their culture and how to go find them and get them. So let's just say that OU loses out on every single top target, which, by the way, I don't believe is going to happen. I mean, we said this weeks ago, right? We said if you got 2 defensive tackles out of that cream of the crop group, David Stone, Ajonye, McKinley, Nwaneri, Sims, there's only one guy committed. One. And that's Za'Darian Sims, who rating-wise was the lowest rated guy out of all the top rated guys they were after. So take a deep breath. And if you get 2 out of all those names, you're in a better position than you have been in a decade at OU on the defensive line. And if they bring in some low 4-star, high 3-star guy that they really like and believe can be a part of this program, let it happen. And who knows what's going to come from that? Because I will say this. I'm not going to sit here and say I've done the research to find out that it's 100% reality. But there is a reality to this. Guys that come in that skyrocket up the rankings in their senior year, right? They go from a no name to a household name. most of those guys exceed the expectations. Right? As long as they go to school and keep their head on straight, there's no injuries, they fit and all the different things. They don't get distracted by school, and they don't get distracted. Distracted by school is the wrong way to say that, right? But to get overwhelmed by school, that's what I should say. They don't get distracted by the ladies and the frat parties, and they're able to keep their head down and stay focused on the task at hand because they're blooming late, right? Whereas like David Stone, everyone's known that David Stone was going to be great from the time he was a freshman. So he's already been bigger than everybody, stronger than everybody, faster than everybody since a freshman. Like a PJ Atabare, right? Shoots up however many inches in height, shoots up physically late, so nobody knows who he is. Nobody thinks he's great. And he shows up his senior year and everybody going, oh my, like, where did this guy come from? Right? Like Danny Osigo. Yeah, I mean, good linebacker, but man, he needs to put on a lot of weight. And then you see everybody see him at the All-American game and go, my Lord, it looks like he didn't even play his senior year. He just hit the weight room for 7 straight months. So when these guys mature physically late, or the light bulb of football comes on late, and then they go into college, they are just scratching the surface of who they are. They're just scratching the surface of what they can be. So don't lose your minds. Yes, we want 5 stars. There's a reason that they're 5 stars. But this staff, the track record of this staff, especially defensively, is to find guys that are extremely talented that nobody else is giving the same due to as should be given until it's very late in the game. I'm going to trust their evaluations, and I'm going to trust what they are able to get out of these guys moving forward, because they did it at Clemson, they did it at OU 12 years ago, and now they get to do it again. That is their track record. So do not lose your mind. I mean, let's just look at last year. Grayson Halton. Anybody think Grayson Halton was going to start at D tackle? Well, he didn't start, but he played a lot there as a true freshman. Nobody thought Grayson Halton was some kind of steal in the recruiting class, and yet he makes his way in and plays a lot as a true freshman, right? I mean, calm down. We want the 5 stars. It sucks that we're losing out on them. We're going to be, I believe, with this staff, okay. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I believe we're going to be okay. So let's move off of Sooners and let's get into a little bit of Thunder talk. Not a lot here. More so, we are 16 days away from the draft. Okay. The draft is June 22nd. And so, of course, all the rumors and the scuttlebutt of what's coming, what's not coming is all out there. And so let me just say this for those of you that might be new to following Thunder drafts. Okay. Maybe because of all those years that we were great, you kind of jumped in, you didn't really get into the evaluation process. You didn't really get into what pick we had or didn't have. But now that the team sucks and we're trying to get on the come up, right? We've got another lottery pick. We got 4 more next year, et cetera, et cetera. Man, I'm really trying to figure all this out. And I keep reading that, man, that they're going to go get Hendricks, or they're going to go get the one guy's name I can't even say his last name of, right? That they're going to go get Dickey. They're going to go get this guy and that guy. Let me just tell you this. I would pretty much bet a lot of money. I'm not saying I'm going to, but I would bet a lot of money. If you have read an article, if you have listened to a podcast, if you have seen some kind of ESPN draft show, name a player and the Thunder being linked together, the Thunder will not draft them. Like last year, Jalen Williams at OU was not a discussion. That was not a pick that anybody, matter of fact, listening to a podcast today, can't remember the gal's name, Down to Dunk, great podcast, check it out. Talking with Jalen Williams right before the draft. He had no idea that the Thunder were going to draft him. He was just like, man, I hope I get drafted in the first round. That's my goal. That's my hope. No idea who's going to take me. Boom, the Thunder go get him. I mean, there has been no organization more secretive, more close-lipped, more whatever. Even last year, I can't even remember who the player was. Every expert, oh, this is the guy that the Thunder are taking. This is the guy that Thunder are taking. This is the guy that Thunder are taking with their 12th pick. And then they don't take him. Right? I mean, the draft last year was Jabari and Chet, right? That's what everybody, those are the top two picks, with Paolo Banchero being third. So when Paolo went first, everyone said, oh, well, here you go. It's Jabari. Because it was a guarantee Jabari was off the board. Now the Thunder are going to take Jabari. They take Chet. I mean, it's just like, you just don't see them, especially in those lower picks, take anybody of what all the experts think. They don't go that route. They don't work that way. The only picks that felt somewhat possible and certain for the Thunder was Jabari or Chet Holmgren last year and Kevin Durant several. Russell Westbrook. They picked that and everybody went, what? You picked who? James Harden. Who? Steven Adams. Who? Like, they never, ever pick anything that's been rumored. It's, Josh Giddey. No one saw them drafting Josh Giddey, but they did. So my words of wisdom to you are simply that. If you have heard that they are going to draft Hendricks or whoever, just go ahead and start looking for another player. Some no name, off the radar, really long, really athletic, willing to play defense, and has the ability to learn how to shoot. Pretty much that's your category. And that could be basically anybody in the draft. So that's the deal with the draft. I have no idea what they're going to do. Are they going to trade up? Maybe. They're going to trade down? Maybe. They're going to draft no one? Maybe. Maybe. I have no idea what they're going to do. Are they going to draft for a superstar of some kind on draft night? Maybe. They have every option on the table. And nobody knows what they're going to do. And honestly, I don't even think Sam Presti knows what he's going to do. He is going to wait till 11 picks are taken, and he's going to have whatever his little calculus formula, analytic, whatever. These guys are all taken. Here's what we do. And he's going to take every minute he can to make whatever he believes is best for this organization to do happen. That's the way it's going to work, the way it's going to be. Now, after saying all that, there is a rumor I think is worth listening to. And that rumor is, for whatever reason that keeps kind of cycling back around, is that the Mike Muscala might be back in OKC next year. Like, that story just seems to keep being written, talked about, discussed, that he is a free agent and he may very well come back to Oklahoma City. Seems odd that they cut him, got rid of him, let him go on. But maybe, just maybe, they did that to allow some younger guys to be able to play. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it's obvious that Sam Presti liked Mike Muscala before. It seems obvious to me he would be great for this team. He spreads the floor great, brings incredible size, not great defense, but his length alone is going to make it very hard to score on him. His shooting is lights out, and then his size will help in the rebounding category as well. So I think he could be a really good fit, a great veteran, brings a great presence, brings some great maturity to a very young team. So kind of taking on that Nick Collison role from years ago of just bringing reason to the room. So of all the rumors out there, yeah, Mike Muscala is the one that I keep hearing that I'm like, I could see that. And that makes some sense, and I think would fit this team really well. They obviously have the cap space to do it. We'll see what happens and how it goes, but it could be really, really good. So, all right, folks, that's your Oklahoma sports update, right? So, again, anything crazy there? Maybe a little bit. Anything super knowledgeable? Not really, but I hope we're having fun talking about some sports. So, again, like, subscribe, leave a review. We would really appreciate it. We're having a great time. We hope you did too. I'm Daryl, and we will talk to you guys later. Bye, Baker.